Introduce our author and moderator to you today, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land that was taken from them and where our university is located today. At the university, we've made important commitments to reconciliation and decolonization, and I invite you to learn more about this work online and in person the next time we can get together on campus. A couple of quick reminders. This session is being recorded today, and you can rewatch it and share it with your friends after the fact. And also, if you have questions as the session's going on, please enter them into the Q&A, and the moderator will share them with Ethan at the end. Ethan Liu is an accomplished journalist and author. His latest book is called Once a Bitcoin Miner, Scandal and Turmoil in the Cryptocurrency Wild West, and that's what you're here for today. Ethan's previous book, Field Notes from a Pandemic, was named among the CBC's Best Canadian Nonfiction for 2020, shortlisted for the Rakuten Kobo Emerging Writer Prize, and was featured in our book talk series back in January. So we're thrilled that Ethan Liu actually opened the 2021 calendar year for us and is closing our alumni book talk sessions too. You can find a recording of that event on our website, so if you missed it, you can check that out. Ethan's writing has appeared in publications around the world, including The Guardian and The Washington Post, and he's a former Reuters reporter who served as a visiting journalist at the UBC. Welcome back to Book Talk, Ethan. We're also thrilled to have Laleh Samarbakhsh, who is an associate professor and chair of finance at Ted Rogers School of Management at Ryerson University. Her research focuses on corporate finance, empirical asset pricing, hedge funds, cryptocurrencies, derivatives, and financial crises. She's published several academic papers in finance research letters, journals of financial stability, International Review of Finance, International Journal of Managerial Finance, and Journal of Economics and Finance. Laleh is the associate editor of the Global Finance Journal, and her work has been featured in the media, including the National Post, Financial Post, and CBC. So we've got the right person to ask Ethan about his book. Welcome to Book Talk, Laleh. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the whole alumni team for having me, giving me the opportunity to be here. And thank you to Ethan for letting me discuss his very interesting book today. Before we jump into our discussion, I'd like to tell our audience a bit about your book, Ethan. Once again, welcome. In Once a Bitcoin Miner, Ethan takes readers on a richly told first-person narrative through the proverbial cryptocurrency Wild West. I really like Ethan's pen and the way he actually makes us connect to this world. From investing in Bitcoin in university to his time working for Reuters, and then mining the digital asset, Ethan meets the likes of the late Gerald Cotton of Quadriga 6 and a co-founder of Ethereum, and hangs out in North Korea with Virgil Griffith, the man later arrested for allegedly teaching blockchain to the totalitarian state, all in the excellent book that he has written. Coming of age in 2008 financial crisis, Ethan's generation has a natural affinity with this rebel internet money, this so-called millennial gold, created in the wake of the economic storm. At once a personal story of adventure and fortune, this book is also a work of journalistic rigor, given Ethan's rich background, a deep dive into this domain that everyone hears about, yet which nobody truly knows, into the lives of the fast talkers, the exiles, the ambitious, and the daring, forging their paths in a new world, harsh and unpredictable. It is an incredible book, lots to unpack here, so let's get right into it. Just to give you guys a little bit of what is coming ahead, well, I'm going to start with questions from Ethan, and then we'll have some time for audience questions at the end. So to our audience, please submit your questions for Ethan via the Zoom Q&A function. I'll pick them up after our first round of questions. Okay, again, Ethan, welcome. And thank you so much for the opportunity to discuss this with you today. I'm going to start with the standard question. Where did your interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies begin at that time, very early in time? And what inspired you to write this book?
Right. So first of all, thank you very much for the very kind and generous introduction, Lali. And I got to know Bitcoin when I was a student at Ryerson. It was a little after my second year of university, maybe while I was there. And it was really because my friends and I, who were also students at Ryerson, one day we decided to go on the dark web just to see what it was all about, really for no good reason. And that was our first time on the dark web. And I saw that everyone was transacting in Bitcoin. And that was my first introduction to the idea, to the concept. And later I ended up interviewing someone who went on to co-found Ethereum. It's not Vitalik, it's another uh, co-founder who also happens to be a Ryerson alumni. And so it was a slow process. So from when I first heard of Bitcoin to when I first bought it, that took a whole year. And for the reason for writing this book, I think lots of people like to look at it from a monetary policy or a computer science perspective. And I don't think there are enough books. I don't think there are any books that look at this like from a human condition perspective. And that's what I try to do. It's a narrative nonfiction meant to read like a novel and to basically guide people in through what I think is a riveting story.
That's a very good, actually, way to introduce your book. I also think what distinguishes it from all the other texts that we find on the cryptocurrencies is the human touch. Like, I agree with you. I read it like a fiction. Like, it was very catchy, and I like, it was interesting to follow through. So that's really nice. What about some of the challenges in writing the book? Because probably the reason we don't see many similar versions of your, let's say, human touch in cryptocurrencies scripts is that there aren't many people, in fact, with the similar experience and also being able to write about it. What are some of the challenges in writing this book?
Well, I think it's probably the same challenge in writing any piece of narrative nonfiction. How do you make truth read like fiction? There's a lot of research you have to do. When you construct scenes, for example, I have to look up geographical records to find out like which way the wind was blowing on this particular day. So every detail in the book that all happened, that's the truth. Like how much the snow was falling that day. You have to really dig deep and find all that. And also when you write about things that are actually happening, quite a number of the people in the book, they don't want to be in the book. A lot of people, they are doing stuff that they don't want other people to know about. So how do you both ethically and legally do that? And so that I think that takes quite a bit of experience in through reporting. So the journalistic aspect, that's quite important. And I think that has been the biggest challenge.
Yes, that's a very good point. Did you have any particular instances of legal issues, like bringing people's names in, or anything you like to share?
Well, there was this character, Jan Serato, and I'm sure you will remember him. I think
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite characters because he's not in any of the marketing of the book, not in any promotion, and I think people find him to be an Easter egg in the book. And when you write about people who don't want to be written about, as a journalist, both an ethical and legal obligation is to tell them that you are writing about this, and nobody should ever be surprised to learn that they're being written about, and maybe that they wouldn't like what you read, but they will know that these aspects of them are being put forward. And that's a deeply awkward and uncomfortable process. And so I had to go through quite a lot of that for him.
That's very nice. That's very enlightening. Thank you so much. Now, I want to talk I want to start with a typical cryptocurrency question, which is everyone's question these days. I sometimes get student emails. They just see my publications and they send me an email. So what advice would you give to someone looking to invest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies? And any words of caution in that? I know it's a very generic question, but we like to hear your point of view.
Well, I would say that investing in crypto, it's one step into the unknown up from traditional investing. And within crypto, if you if you want to compare like Bitcoin and Ethereum, the established cryptocurrencies, and something like Doge or Shiba Inu, that's another step into the unknown. So I think it's always good to go one level. And I encourage people to go one level, but I don't think you should try to jump two levels. So, if you're not already invested in Bitcoin, don't go look for the dog coins. And if you're not doing any investing at all, maybe start finding out what a TSFA is before doing Bitcoin.
So just to put some context into that, what do you mean by one level and not two levels?
I think of it in terms of tiers. So in terms of difficulty to understand and the complexity. So if you know nothing about finance, if you have not bought any stocks, if you try to do that traditional investing, that's one tier up. And from there, if you want to invest in Bitcoin, that's another tier. And then dog coins, that's another tier. So
very good.
Just
very good.
Do it incrementally.
I agree. Whenever you don't understand something, you have to be cautious in investing. Yeah, that's my basic rule to the students. Like if you don't understand it, be cautious about it. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next question. Your book, Ethan, very artistically and validly merges the birth of cryptocurrencies with the 2008 global financial crisis. To begin with, do you think we should expect another rebirth due to the COVID-19 pandemic? Like, would you consider other digital assets like NFT picking up because of the pandemic uncertainties?
Well, I think the pandemic, it's caused a lot of inflation. And I think inflation is fertile ground for Bitcoin to pick up. And I remember seeing headlines that Argentina, for example, is going to freeze grocery prices for 90 days. And in what sort of world do we see a headline like that? And in Venezuela, people are shaving off flakes of gold to pay for things. And Bitcoin, traditionally, what makes it attractive, it's akin to gold as an inflation hedge. And I think the more inflation we'll see, the more attractive Bitcoin will become.
That's a very good, I think that's a very good intake on that question. Now let's switch gears a bit, Ethan. There has been a lot of unrest globally due to the pandemic. Like there has been a unified call to action for many injustices faced around the world. How do social justice movements impact Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? Maybe you touched base a little bit on it, but do you think like the blockchain technology can help advance social justice issues?
I guess it depends how you define social justice issues. I myself, I would see that one area of growing inequality and a big problem is the dominance of tech giants. And it's become increasingly worse as we, you know how like Zuckerberg a while back, he was talking about this idea of the metaverse. But I think we already live in one because our lives are increasingly online and completely virtual milestones, like being verified on Twitter or, how many followers you have or like that. It's become so important these days. And so these tech companies, they hold a lot of power over us. And blockchain and crypto, I think Ethereum, for example, at heart, its value proposition is that it's trying to create a more decentralized form of the internet. They want to have the services that we use every day, but without these big tech companies lording over us. And this whole metaverse. And if you heard a while back, there was this internet association called the DAO. It's basically like a company without a leader. And I think these things, they will be increasingly important in the future. Yeah, hang on, let me blow my nose.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so I agree with you. I think if there is, let's say, technological aspects of beating that social injustice, definitely blockchain technology will have some role. Now, do you think that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are the future? Are they volatile? Will we continue to rely on traditional currency for long, or do you think our economies will make a switch to digital currencies?
I think it'll be a bit of both, and I don't think we will ever completely get rid of cash because cash, after all, it beats crypto in a way that Bitcoin is still traceable, it's still trackable, and cash is still the thing that's truly untraceable, and that's why most of the world's drug deals that they're done in American dollars. But I think if you look at central bank digital currencies, they are, I think going to be a very big thing. China has been pursuing this so doggedly, and China is already a society where people are cashless. And when they make their central bank digital currency, I do see a world in which the whole country is using that. And if you see what's happening in El Salvador, where the country is shaking off the yoke of the dollar and adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender, and I see all of these happening in greater magnitudes, but cash will still be here.
Mm-hmm. I think to some extent on that note, I can follow up with a question. So you mentioned the CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. What do you think the future will hold for regulation of cryptocurrencies? For example, you mentioned CBDCs, will they be able to compete and replace Bitcoin?
No, definitely no. But I don't think. But I think Bitcoin is quite a narrow use case, and there are lots of uses for the central bank digital currency that I don't think Bitcoin will be able to fill. And so I think they'll exist side by side. And with respect to regulation, I think the US has been increasingly hawkish these days with Gary Gensler at the head of the SEC. But with every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and shapeshift. So that's an exchange in the US. Recently, it wanted to transition to a DAO, like we talked about that just now, like an organization without a leader. And it did that specifically as a way to combat regulations, because the guy at the head of it, he's a hardcore libertarian. And we will see how that plays out. But if it works, I think we'll see more people following suit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But a lot of the volatility and turmoil that we see in the cryptocurrencies is a result of like sudden regulations. When China bans like cryptocurrency firms, we see the drop. How would you explain that kind of like independence for crypto? If that volatility is really impacted by the central banks, then it's not necessarily a deregulated market anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see a little bit of that, but I would also say that how Bitcoin has bounced back, because when China had pushed out like all of its miners, and that represented 50% of Bitcoin's mining infrastructure. I think if you were to decimate, if you were to cut like 50% of the traditional banking system, there'll be chaos. And so I think that the fact that Bitcoin has been able to bounce back, that it was still able to operate at 50% at a substantially reduced hash rate, shows that it is in fact quite anti-fragile. And I think we are still early days. It'll become even more so in the coming days.
That's a very good point. So you're seeing some resilience in the cryptocurrency that we don't see it in the let's say traditional financial intermediaries. I agree with you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the last question, and then we're going to go to the exciting questions from the audience. My last question is, what's next on the horizon for you in terms of books, in terms of your journalistic activities? What's next?
Well, there are quite a lot of things I can't talk about publicly, but
we can imagine that answer. Yeah.
I have possible book projects are on the horizon, but I haven't even begun to write the proposals yet. And I do write a cryptocurrency column in the Financial Post, so it's a pretty regular thing. But one thing on the horizon, so we touched upon this earlier. So I was in North Korea, and a guy with me there, he's quite high up at Ethereum, or at least he was at the time, and he pleaded guilty. And January 18th, he's going to get sentenced, and it's quite likely I'll be there at the sentencing, and I'll be writing something about that.
That would be something we all like to read and follow up on. So your column on Financial Post is something that the audience can follow through, hopefully to get some updates on that too. And with that, I'm going to switch to the questions from the audience. Let me see if I can figure out. And if not, I'll get, oh, very good. So we have 2 questions already. We have one from Patricia. She's asking, what would be the dangers of countries adopting Bitcoin as one of their legal tenders?
Well, I would start off by saying in the world of politics, easy come, easy go. And we have a case study in El Salvador, and Nayib Bukele, the president, ushered that in. But the fact that he was able to so easily do that also points to the fact that someone will be able to undo it once he is gone. So I don't think adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, that in itself causes a major change in the country, because a lot of these things are transient. And I think it's only a nominal legal tender, because what truly is legal tender is that everyone is legally obligated to accept it. And yeah, I think that definitely will be problematic, because not everyone can accept it in a technical sense, but it's not really that enforced in El Salvador. So I don't think we've actually seen a case in which it's something so permanent and entrenched, but maybe we'll see that one day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it goes hand in hand with the political unrest, right? So that's why a lot of it is to be seen, like you said. I agree. Okay, so once again, to the audience, if you have questions, please feel free to submit. I'm going to go in the order. The next question is from Les Kelman. And the question asks, has anyone written cryptocurrency for dummies? I'm sure there is, but I don't know. Let's ask Ethan.
Well, my book is that book, and
that's a good answer. Yeah.
It's quite low on the technical explanations, but the explanations I think are also quite easy to understand.
That is true, Les. Like, I agree. It's a great book if you want to have like I was sharing earlier with Ethan how my husband never enjoys my academic work, but he picked this book and he's like, you're finally doing something interesting. Okay, so
it helps that it's shiny.
Yeah, it has a really good cover. I love it. So next question is from Anna, and she's asking, many universities are investigating whether to accept donations in cryptocurrency. That's a great question, Anna. What are some risks that you see with doing this?
I guess the number one risk, and maybe this answers also the earlier question of what are the risks of countries doing that. I think crypto's biggest feature is also its biggest bug, in that transactions are irreversible, and the person who holds the passphrase, the equivalent of the password, controls the crypto. So if a university wants to accept Bitcoin as donations, who holds the key? And now I know you can have like multi-signature keys. Everyone can hold a part of the key. But what if someone is fired and has a dispute, and he says, yo, I won't give up the key? And so what happens then? But also, if you want to accept Bitcoin as donations, that you don't have to keep it in Bitcoin, you can sell it right away. And there are services that allow you to do that effortlessly. So that is also a method.
Okay, that's a good point. So I like that suggestion. So better to liquidate it before keeping it within a big organization that you don't know how to probably keep it secure. Okay.
Oh, but I should add, there are services that also will help you to custody your Bitcoin. So that's something to be considered too.
Sure. Next one from Francisco. In your opinion, so this is more of a technical question, in your opinion, is Gemini a good platform for a new person to Bitcoin to use?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I don't say that in the sense that I think it's head and shoulders above the rest. I think there are lots of good platforms there. But Gemini, so it's founded by the Winklevoss twins, and they are very big on complying with regulators.
Okay, and another question from Patricia. What are the environmental impacts of Bitcoin, if any? It's very big in the news right now.
I've been asked this a lot, and I wrote a whole column on this, but so I think this is a very, I guess, big and long question, and we'll be here all day if we delve into that fully. But I would say that any activity that's practiced across the globe, name anything, it uses as much electricity as several countries. Simply playing the Justin Bieber song Despacito as like 5 African countries right there. And so, what are the environmental implications of Bitcoin? It's the environmental implications of being alive. And, we humans, we are already a virus.
Mm-hmm. I can see that Laura wanted to add something. So for those who don't know, oh no, okay, sorry, Laura, I think I got that. I read that wrong. Okay, so let's go to another question from Human Rights. And the question is, you mentioned TFSA. What is the acronym? I can help with that. So that's the tax-free saving account that we have in Canada, and started from the global financial crisis, post-global financial crisis. So since 2009, each Canadian resident has a capacity to actually invest in TFSA account, and all the interest or profit in that account is tax-free. So that's what it stands for. Did I do a good job, Ethan, or do you want to answer?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I should add that you can indirectly hold Bitcoin in your TSFA if you buy an ETF.
Okay, perfect. And the last question, as we're finishing our time, can you briefly explain how cryptocurrency mining works?
So that is, it's a way of processing transactions. So if you think of how transactions are made, so there's a ledger. So I send you money, you receive it, everything is in a ledger, it's distributed among all the network participants. So while people update that ledger with transactions, they earn units of that cryptocurrency, and that process is called mining.
Okay. I know we're running out of time, but we have a lot of good questions coming on. I encourage people to get in touch with both the alumni team and Ethan later, maybe. And I apologize that we cannot go ahead with the rest of the questions due to our time. I'll pass it back to Jennifer. Thank you very much, everyone, for your involvement. The fact that we had to miss a few questions, and I apologize, just shows how much interest there were in your book, Ethan. Thank you for the opportunity. Back to you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Laleh. Thank you, Ethan. That was really an amazing and informative discussion. I think I learned more in the last 25 minutes about cryptocurrency than in the last few years of trying to understand articles in the newspaper and on the radio. So thank you both very much. Thank you to the audience for being with us today. And I ask that you look out for an email from us with a link to this recording that you can share, watch it again, or share it with your friends and family. And we hope that you'll join us again. We'll be continuing our book talk series in January, and our first event in the new year will be on January 25th, featuring a conversation with contributors of the book, A Perfect Offering, Stories of Trauma and Transformation. We've got details about that book talk. They will be available on our website, and you can get more information there. Thank you very much. Take care.